This is going to be part 2 of Explained, why you can't rationalize with a Trump supporter. So the comments that came in validated and revalidated the points that I was making in the video. And there was more of a focus on my appearance, the fact that I looked like I was of Middle Eastern origin, of which I have discussed what it's like to live in a world to where you're basically thrown away by both sides of your family. You go on to become an independent thinker and to be against the mainstream Democrat Republican nonsense. And I explained that in the video. And I am one of the few. Now, George Norrie, his father's Lebanese and his mother's white, so he's the closest that I found to someone like me. But there's also a big difference in things between myself and Mr. Norrie. I'm not on Clear Channel. There's certain things that I would not promote. There's a lot of things, honestly, that Trump supporters over Clinton supporters enjoy, which I don't understand. But I will say that I've never seen or encountered a Clinton support base in the audience space. And so the people are coming over to this channel that are thumbing down and are insulting me. They aren't like followers of the information that I share. It is assumed that I'm a libtard or Soros paid or someone crying about Hillary Clinton not winning. And I explained also in that video, but they were more focused on how scary my eyes appeared to be to them. And, you know, for years, and then I'm going to start getting more into the information, I've explained to people, there is something different about my appearance. And I would talk about this in Portland, which they would see as a libtard city that loves Muslims. And the reality is, when I was in Portland, I got to see, even though it's a left city, it's not more open. And my last few years of discussing what it felt like to be a non-Democrat person in a city like Portland, but also racially mixed, you're not more received. You're less received. There's even one woman that was responding to one of my videos discussing relationships saying that I wasn't brown enough, I was too white. So I also get racism, and I've explained this, directed at me towards those that will put me in that box. Well, you're not Hispanic and you're not black, so we're going to put you in this box because you came from a white mother, as if they know that. And the reason why a lot of this comes across as emotional terrorism is I do firmly believe that my unique nature, especially my thoughts, my spiritual ideas, as well as some of the other opinions that I share on this channel, it's alienated me from all family. And I rebelled against the mainstream New Age teachings of my mother, and I would not allow myself, in the brief time that I did stay with my father's family, to become a Muslim. And so I come from a background of being on my own for a very long time and not having any demographic, whether you would call that the conspiracy theory crowd or the libertarian crowd or the liberal left or the anarchists. I've never had like a crowd of any form of white America or colored world support what it is that I say or do. And so on one level, yes, I do believe the fact that I am of the East and the West has something to do with that. But I would say in the end, it's really about the things that I share. My advocacy of off-grid living, my spiritual or Gnostic ideas as opposed to the mainstream religious or New Age ones, and I discuss in the videos what the contrast and difference is. I believe that I'm the only one in the alternative media that foresees a global conflict between our country, the United States, and the nations of China and Russia. And I began doing that in 2008. I was frustrated then at that time, not from a racial perspective, but from an idea perspective. Why does it seem that I'm the only one discussing this upcoming Third World War, to which the victor's already been decided? As in, China and Russia are already a part of the New World Order, meaning they're not good guys, meaning those that are actually promoting those talking points are unwitting dupes, if you will, useful idiots. It's not so much Russian propaganda as it is not really seeing how the New World Order works today. So I will tell you, since getting involved in alternative media back in 2004, back then I was there was a lot more openness when Bush was the president towards the very same things that I talk about now. Things got really cold when Obama was elected. And so there's a lot of pain in me when people call me liptard in this, because I know what it's like to be completely also insulted, but not as extremely, but also insulted by those labeled the left. But when I say not as extremely, what they'll do, just like those that support Trump, they'll insult you and they'll isolate you. Oh, we don't want to have anything to do with you. You're with the enemy. You're with the right wing, they would say. You're with the right wing. No, I'm an independent thinker. I'm not getting on board the Obama nonsense. Stop insulting me. I even was evicted by what a lot of you guys would call some fucking liptard, because I was doing a show in Oracle Broadcasting for 2 hours a day for free from my room, talking like I am now. But now I live off the grid. I don't have to make roommates feel weird anymore because I'm not getting on board. I live off the grid to get away from your judgmental world on the left and the right. A world that I don't have a problem with it being predominantly white, but everywhere that I have gone and I have lived has been that. So when I'm called liptard, when I'm called Arab, if you want to get literal, the country that my father comes from, they're not actual Arabs. And you're very obsessed with these things. And it's like you don't take any acknowledgement. And I'm speaking directly to those that I can't rationalize with. Okay? You're going to call me these names because I say I didn't vote for Trump, but I also say I didn't vote for Clinton. And you call me a liar. And I'm telling people on the internet, you can't be rationalized with, because even your comments, no one commented in the comment section say, Alex, I'm a Trump supporter, but I understand your points. Here are the points that I understand. All it was your eyes are scary. You're scary. You don't even look like us. And you validated what I tried to tell the other listeners on this channel for years. Some of them were having a very hard time, like, Alex, it sounds like you're making this up. We really just see another white guy. And it's like, don't take this wrong. Don't take this personal. No one's insulting white people. I'm not insulting my mother's family. I'm saying that ever since I was born, and increasingly in certain years, when I'm in public places, especially if I don't shave or if my hair is curly, heads turn and it hurts. Because out of the world of the Middle Eastern immigrants, I haven't seen others. See, I'm not an immigrant, however. I was born in Oregon, and they call me white genocide. But out of the immigrants and out of other Middle Eastern Americans, or those from that part of the world, I don't see a lot of them in the alternative media. I see myself. And again, not only do I see myself, with few exceptions, George Norrie, but that's Clear Channel. Is that really the same thing? And there may be a few others. But it's felt very isolating, because I've struggled over the years. Is it me? Is it my blood that they don't like? Is it something they detect in my blood that they don't trust? Certain of the people that I've tried to earn their trust in the alternative media that have helped others, even individuals like Luke Kradowski, who has, he's like this prototype, if you will, especially at that time for a certain individual in the alternative media. But at that time, I was doing constant 9/11 activity in Portland. But in the end, it came down to, what if no matter how hard you try, you will always be looked at a certain way because you're an Ansari, because they see you as an Arab, because you say you're half Afghan, which is actually different than Arab. But a lot of people don't know the Mujahideen history, nor what happened before that when the country was stable. When my father left, his family was a part of the government class that you could say was co-opted early by Russia, that led to the conflict in '79. So there were historical aspects of Afghanistan, and even women going to school. And a lot of the burqa stereotype that a lot of people have about that country and that region has followed destabilization on the part of both Russia and the United States. And in some cases, they may have been working together. And now we have this coalition being built between Trump and Putin, and many are dying in Syria. And so when I bring up these issues and I talk about human life, and there are people that come out of the woodwork to defend someone who is marginalizing a whole group of people, how can you be rationalized with? How can they be rationalized with? How were their comments to me talking about my scary looking eyes? And that took me back to, and I would say to even old female friends 5 years ago in Portland, there's something about people, when they walk by me on the street, they show me fear. white women show me fear. And it hurt later on when this whole white genocide meme and Paul Joseph Watson, Rationalize, Accusations, and others were saying that the white women were going Muslim or going dark. When in my experience, my good times, if you will, the dating period, very brief in my life, and came from a lot of pain growing up and had to move around a lot. A lot of my life story is going to get into that. So I kind of came into adulthood in a city that a lot of you apparently don't even like anyways. Portland, Oregon, a city that I moved away from that had its own problems. Social justice warrior nonsense calling this racist, that racist, without actually dealing with the death toll in the Middle East, which in of itself could be argued to be a genocide or racist. But again, I saw myself judged by the Obama supporters because Trump was not on the scene then. Obama was. So if you go back on my YouTube channel, who am I criticizing? So Trump wasn't on the scene. I was criticizing the then president-elect. And before that, I was criticizing but not making it all about the president, but the system and the mindless zombie behavior to support these individuals. That's what I did. People would glare at me at the supermarket and I wouldn't know, is it because of something that you said on Access TV? Or do they recognize you, at least on your father's side or a part of you, to be of Middle Eastern origin? And are they looking at you with disdain and disgust? You know, it's like that bit from that white genocide documentary, like feeling like no one in a land of nobodies because there are brown faces all around us. And this is the world. See, I'm explaining this, how it hurts to be called the effect of white genocide because you don't look as white as them. And then someone comments in the video saying, well, are you denying that in the 1970s or 1980s a liberal college professor said? It's like, what does that have to do with the fact that I live in a world where there are people acting like I'm a subhuman? What does that have to do? Do you realize that I actually have to make a podcast to reach some of you with this because my physical appearance is apparently so harsh? In the end, and I'm going to move this over here as I prepare my coffee for the morning. Does this or does this not validate the things that I was saying to Portlanders? Even though you're a left city and you're believed to be more open to people whose genetics come from different parts of the planet. But in reality, your own white women show me fear. A lot of this kicked off around 2014. And it's going to be a little bit of a longer podcast because some people may have been thrown off by the fact that I showed strong emotion in the last one. I really want to leave you with information about myself. Now we can leave some positive feedback and go, Alex, I didn't know this. But it's like when I say can't rationalize with a Trump supporter, and then I get back to my point, it's like if I'm sharing these personal details with you and I'm saying, listen, did you catch that? Out of the, I don't know how many millions that are in the United States, when you look at like the alternative media and people that have interviewed, whether you like them or not, Alex Jones, David Icke, others early on, it's really a sea of white faces. And that's fine. But when you have someone that comes outside of that, it should show you, well, wait a minute, here's somebody that's, not out here causing problems, who's dedicated his whole life to spiritual teaching, spiritual understandings, investigating the New World Order, and there are few like him, and few that address or even warn of the things that he warns about. Speaking of me. So we talk about the Chinese-Russian threat in the 2020s after the U.S. continues to suicide itself. I talk about the solar flares and even the potential that romance, some of our romantic problems, which are actually caused by other things, some issues and some things on our planet will come back to balance if we had something like that. I don't predict complete doomsday. I see huge differences between myself and people like Ed Dames and others. I do see major infrastructure collapse, but I don't see the end of the world. So it's like I perceive great change and hope. And I have a whole different view on what's going on with Elon Musk and SpaceX. I think that there's really some sort of a, you're concerned about your genetics, rightly so. There seems to be something going on to the human species. Instead of blaming the people from the Middle East, why don't you for a few minutes consider the ideas being shared to you by a person that is both of the East and the West in some attempt to understand yourself deeper, myself deeper by listening to these podcast series and becoming a subscriber and checking out my past work and seeing how consistent I have been. When I say checking out my past work, there are ways, and again, I spoke very quickly and I looked very intense with my newly found. Last time I shaved my head, folks, was 20 years ago. I don't like this look. The only reason is because I'm snowed in for a few months. I don't like having curls and being identified as some Boston bomber look-alike who has white skin, but notice very curly hair. And it's really about the nose structure. Someone could have white skin and have curly hair, and it's about the nose, it's about the lips, it's about other things that people identify to be Middle Eastern. And I'll tell you what, I spoke at Mark Passio's Free Your Mind conference in 2013, and not only did I first have to go through the machine and the pat down, but when I was in the train station using the internet, when I was in Philadelphia, the way people would look at me, and I looked at the newspaper, and it was a story about the Boston bombing. Now here I am talking about the links between false flags, problem, reaction, solution, and solar flares to get people in a state of fear when there's a lot of energy floating around in the atmosphere. So I'm actually talking about not the Boston bombing as a conspiracy. I'm talking about from a larger perspective that we're in a period in time in which many events are being staged to work people up into a frenzy. And the same thing could be said about San Bernardino and other things that have been believed to be genuine acts of terror, which are not genuine acts of terror. So people understand who I am, that are regular viewers. People misunderstand who I am and what I represent who are not. And there are people that will turn against me that were regular viewers to say, Alex, we thought you were open-minded. Alex, so we're going to attack you. We're going to attack you. Do you not realize that they have been planning white genocide for many, many years without even recognizing what does that have to do with my own feelings and my own emotions? Why do you continue to insist that I am lower than you, or that there are others that don't do that? Let me calmly go back and talk about these two terms that I believe that I have coined. There's white judgment and there's white guilt. White judgment is when an aspect of the population that would identify and self-identify to be white. You have, because we're more than that. That's why I say that. You're more than that. Why bring yourself down to that when you're actually more like a shade of pink or something like that if you want to be literal? And is a black person really black, or are they really kind of brown? Our terms aren't even really accurate. It's about division. It's about dividing yourself from others. It's called the illusions of separation. I'm going to cite another video myself years ago speaking about this. The walls that divide us. Find my video on YouTube. The walls that divide us. While you're at it, listen to my reading of the Gospel of St. Thomas or the other teachings of Jesus Christ. See, there's so much focus on this material world and cruelty. It is cruelty. You can say it's not racist. Okay, it's cruelty. You're not racist. It's cruelty to tell someone that they are white genocide, or to say to someone your feelings don't matter because you're mixed, that we're more alarmed at a less white world than how you feel being demonized as subhuman. Many of you that claimed to be audience members, one even claiming to be a Gnostic, made that very clear in your anger towards me. Again, in the comments coming in, your eyes, they look evil, they look scary. Now people, for the first time in my life though, will actually tell me what they always really thought. But the world said, Alex, no. The world doesn't look at you like that. They really are mesmerized by your beauty. That's actually what a woman would say to me in Portland. And I'd say, no, I really don't think that regular society views me as beautiful. I believe that they are afraid of me. I believe that they are afraid of me. I believe that they are afraid of me based on my appearance. And they would say, Alex, you're making this up. They don't. It's in your head. You're suffering from paranoia, dude. You're a regular white guy. Boom! Then 2013 happens. Boom! Then 2014 happens. And the fake Islamic invasion. Boom! 2015 happens. And people are looking underneath their desk, and they're almost doing earthquake drills, and they're getting down, and they're covering, and they're getting ready for the muzzies. And people are talking about sniping refugees. And so I was in an experience around that time when all that blew up. When what I was doing was going off grid, I left Portland. I saw Portland as a place where the white women feared me, where the white men were closer to each other than they were with me, where it was tribal, where even though 5 years ago during Bush's period, the Obama period on one level made me a freak to them politically because I wasn't supporting the Obama deception, and on a racial level, I wasn't white. So they can pretend that they're different by being liberal, but they're not. And those of you that are coming from this libtard, they fucking love the muzzies, you're coming from a sick, demented place. Because if that was true, there would have been people that would have opened up their homes to me as a person that you would call a conspiracy theorist, left-leaning extremist. But they'll call me a right-winger. Alex Jones back in the day would talk like this too, about being judged by the opposite political party because you don't want the new world order. And now because I'm not on the Trump train, you're literally throwing me out to the wolves because I'm seen as an Arab to you or a dog. And I'm seen as a libtard who's being paid by Soros. As far as I'm concerned, I was right when I told people I need to go off grid because they may be hunting for people like me in the future. Not just people that are racially different, but are speaking the truth. So I've actually been preparing myself for death this last year. To be killed, for murder. It's not that I'm hoping it happens. It's that I don't see it past you or your society. This level of judgment that you've shown me shows me that I can be dehumanized. That anyone that doesn't worship Trump, anyone that doesn't support Trump, anyone that criticizes Trump, anyone that's against the idea that he's outside the establishment. If people challenge that narrative and say he is New World Order, watch and see what he does. When you say that that's Soros paid and you say that Soros is with Pizzagate and fucking little kids, you're saying that anyone that criticizes Trump is with fucking little kids. Soros, Pizzagate. You make that association. You make that association. You make that association. It doesn't matter that you can't find any Muslims in support of Alex Ansari, because this is not a channel supporting Islam. It's a channel defending human beings from persecution for being labeled this or labeled that, and constantly explaining to you there are Middle Eastern humans that are born humans, not Muslims. So to demonize them and to say that they are not facing persecution based on their appearance alone, that this is all about religion, you're lying to my face. With Obama supporters, they threw me under the bus, but they never came after me the way the Trump supporters did with their insults. They never literally came on my page and said that's racist. If you don't like Obama, you're racist. But we would talk shit about them. And we would say, that's what they're doing to us. Not all Obama supporters did that. Some of them were just stupid. But they didn't necessarily do that, but they were naive. Like, well, he's not Bush. He's Obama. And I was angry at them and continue to be angry at them and Sanders voters. You're an idiot if you think that someone could be an advocate for the 9/11 conspiracy idea and be for Clinton. You don't know enough about Clinton and her speeches. You don't know about Clinton saying that if you question 9/11, you have a black heart. It's funny how many of you hate Clinton, but you don't even know how Clinton attacked truthers like a month ago or 2 or 3 months ago. What, you don't remember that? Or you do remember that? And you just won't look at my own channel and see that I'm one of those folks. There's a lot of people that just, like other people in this society, they responded to the headline that I put out there. And they responded to my physical appearance. And they responded to my eyes. And that woman said, your eyes are scary. Your eyes scare me. And again, years and years and years, I try to explain, I got this society in Portland that you guys think is all free and loving, and leftist is not loving. It's not accepting. Let's see, with the way people would look into my eyes and show me fear throughout most of my adult life. And I look into my own eyes and I see power there. I see genetics there. I see there are aspects of my hair and my eyes that people have insulted that has more to do with where my father was born than where I was born, where my father comes from, where his father comes from, and so on and so forth. And it's also, if you look at my mother's or my father's mother, she's from India. So, I'm only really a quarter one thing and then a quarter another. And then the other side, you have a mixture of blue blood stuff. You have the NAGL, Nagel, not NAGLE. And you have the Lewis, which goes to the Lewis line of Wales. And so this combination of genetics is unique. And the very fact that it is unique has been the very thing that has put me in this box of white genocide to these people. And then I look at myself as being one of the only few in the independent media of this line. There's also no activists on either my father's side or my mother's side, or anyone that's genuinely on the path. I don't see a supremacy on either side. I see judgment on either side. I see abuse. I see skeletons in the closet on both sides. I don't see accountability on either side. But both sides are very tribal, like much of your society, that believe in racial and religious supremacy or superiority. And because I never got beyond a particular religion, I'm more on a spiritual, outside-the-box thinker, I have found myself judged by both sides. So it's the spiritual ideas, it's the things that I'm discussing about the current world. Then, of course, there's my warnings about this coming war with China. And I've been on record for over 2008. So not only am I of the group that's being targeted racially, I believe I'm one of the few that's actually giving you accurate information and warnings about the things that are to come in the next few years. I'm also very hurt in some ways that my own audience doesn't see my content worth contributing to anymore, supporting. So you get upset with me for the news, but you don't realize that I'm working on average on YouTube for like $2 an hour. I actually did the math. And if I keep working hard, maybe I can get that up to $3 an hour. And so if you're doing that full time, you may not be making a full $1,000 a month, but I certainly can break 500. And I can live off the grid. I can live away from your society that's going to clutch its purses when I walk by. Your leftist women, your leftist white women are not more into this brown outside the box Alex Ansary. That's not true. That's actually very hurtful. For your boys over there, Paul Watson, Rice Creations, Milo, other, watch my video when white men blame brown men for their problems with women. And I explain it there. There are reasons why I talk about relationships, why I'm also heavily watched by the MGTOW movement, because I talk about what's happened between men and women on a deeper level. And so I have a whole audience base by the thousands that comes to hear me talk just about relationships, because there's so many aspects of myself to share with you. If only you can get beyond your judgment of me for being racially different and not voting for Trump, and understand that I have an actual track record that goes back now a decade on YouTube. There would be more if I had everything archived. I left all my stuff in Portland. The pain in Portland was so great, I left that place twice. Go back and find out, this Alex Ansary, this liptard must be paid by Soros. I was living in my vehicle going back to Portland and being called names then. Well, why would you be homeless? Are you a drug addict? During a time in which Portland was like the place where all these people were moving to. And all types of people were displaced from their homes. They were displaced from their homes. I came back, and for those that don't know, my parents divorced when I was born. And so part of me wants to write a story to explain to you, in the story of my father's from Afghanistan, what it's like to survive a family breakup, family abuse, and to feel that your different status and the issues between your parents caused friction early in childhood and even resentment between the parents themselves. Now, I want to bring this to completion, but you should know certain things about myself and what I've survived. What is it that you think about me? For those of you that are able to make it to the end of this tape, that I just am seething with hatred towards Donald Trump and all this is random. This isn't about Donald Trump. This is about a society that is freaked out by a less white world, that has directly labeled me white genocide. What does a professor have to do with my life and the way that you have treated me or your kind when you see my eyes and those eyes look scary to you, or that beard has not been shaved close enough, and I may grow out in 3 days what some people try to grow out in 3 months? I can't control that. What I have control over are my actions. What I have control over is the content that I talk about on this channel. And I constantly look at the haters, the people that are hating on me. 1 out of 200 will have a video. Okay, on average. 1 out of 200 or 3 to 400, it varies. But I'm going to go 1 out of 200 will have a video of their own. And here I have now 3,300 videos on YouTube. Okay, and I'm talking about, and I do a 1-hour lecture on the changes our son is bringing to the world. And I've done so much work over the years. People ask me, how do you do it? I don't know how I do it, and I don't know how I'm able to tap into certain things. But what if I'm not a subhuman by being a combination of these genetics, and I don't have the cultural programming to be a Muslim? So all I've done is use my body to investigate these outside the box concepts. My mind, body, and spirit. I've been on this quest. If anything, I could be one of the first individuals for you to study, as you have judged people from a certain part of the world for a long time and have chosen to not go into pre-Taliban history of Afghanistan to see that it doesn't have a history of everyone running around wearing burqas. And your attempt to do that is wrong and dehumanizing. When you attempt to I remember an old boyfriend of my mother's. I looked up to him like a hero. He was a early martial arts instructor, boxing coach. There's aspects of myself that are very interested in physical fitness and things like that, but not the MMA. So he was a man of Japanese heritage, a very inspirational individual. But I remember he would make jokes saying, well, the ancient Persians, they were all faggots. They all like to fuck each other in the ass. And I remember even before 9/11, it was 1994. He was going off for like an hour. Here I am, 14 years old, a kid of mixed race. He's like my only father figure. My father wasn't even in my life. And my mother was incredibly psychological abusive, especially with the New Age teachings and mixing that with screeching and yelling and princess programming. She's really a prototype for what a lot of us have experienced in our adulthood, as things have really gotten worse in this nation. So this man was really a mentor, but to see him do that was hurtful. It was very hurtful. To see my father's family disown me, and not even tell me in recent weeks who my grandfather was. I try to write a story about my life. And in that chapter, My Father's from Afghanistan, I think people should know that my grandfather was one of those suit and tie wearing individuals who was kind of a diplomat who may have been a Russian collaborator during the invasion of Afghanistan. So while people are going to demonize the Mujahideen, they'll fail to realize how many outside Arabs and Saudis, people like bin Laden, came from outside Afghanistan. And when the war was over, they continued to get funding, even though officially they were not being funded by the CIA. They were. And the radicals took control of Afghanistan, and the other Afghans perished. I want to know more about the other Afghans, the Northern Alliance, the people that were fighting the Taliban. And so it's been very difficult, not only in trying to get some of you to assist me in some of this history, or to support my work and just get off, just Go on a deeper intellectual, who is this person? What are the ideas? And get over the fact that I'm discussing the fact that I don't support Trump. Because if you literally have degenerated level that that's all we can talk about, and I'm your enemy, and I'm being paid by Soros in your eyes, then how is this not another version of idiocracy? If you can't even hear my stories. As people like Paul Watson say that the white liberal women are going muzzy or going brown, I can tell you that I saw white women show complete disgust for me in recent years. Yes, I'm going to acknowledge a friend of mine that's coming to visit in a week, and I do miss her. But have I just given up dating completely, especially with American women, and not just white women, but many American women? That means certain minorities that develop certain attitudes when they come here. I didn't say our country's all bad. I said that there are some people that become Americans that develop the arrogance that our country promotes, and that includes Middle Eastern immigrants. And that includes Muslim Middle Eastern immigrants. That's right. There are Muslim Middle Eastern immigrants that love the United States and the military and the occupation of Afghanistan. So it's like, it's completely really ridiculous for certain people to demonize all Muslims when you have Muslims that some of them support Trump or support the establishment, or they support Obama, or they supported Bush. But to me, all that is the same system. Because you have a military-industrial complex droning those countries, not dropping Qurans, but droning those countries. There's a difference between Obama droning those countries and being a Muslim. These are all points that I'm trying to make with the audience. You know, it's one thing for us all to be together against corruption. That's one thing. But for us to be fighting over whether someone, is into Bush or into Obama or into Trump or into who's 2020, see, this is how you destroy a society. This is the decline of our Western civilization. And this is how we're falling. And so how do we go from demonizing all of these immigrants to World War III and the white American being persecuted, and how I was judged by Portlanders, calling a doomsday soothsayer because I'm warning them about an upcoming terror attack or attack on their city? It's like a vision that I have. I might as well segue even deeper if I still have your ear in this part 2. Because yes, I'm going to get your attention with why you can't rationalize with a Trump supporter, but can I? Can I? Because I'm saying that to get your attention, but in reality, for those more intelligent members of the Trump support base that are still with me, because a few people said in the last video, I listened to you towards the end. Okay, well, now that I have your ear, because now I have to realize I have to title things a certain way to even get you to even find me. And yes, you will hate me and you will insult me, but did I do everything in my part in part 1 while I was getting angry and scaring you with my first shaved head in like 20 years? There's a reason I don't do that, folks. That's the reason why when people say, Alex, you should shave your head, I look at them like, what? But I'm telling you, man, when you have curly hairs, and I do bounce around, that's part of the analytical, outside the box, way of doing things. I have a certain mind that works in a certain abstract way. While it may seem crazy to you that I need to go take drugs from the system, yes. How many times can people of this society tell me, yeah, you're crazy. Yeah, you don't come across as ethnocentric at all, calling me crazy. Nor did what you call the left liberals, which are not so different than you, but more like you than you'll ever admit in Portland. That dude is crazy. It's like you guys are seen as this open-minded left la. They're not any different. Portlanders were really, really mean in general. So when I see really, really mean behavior from Trump supporters, and when I've seen really, really mean behavior from the left, your tone isn't any different towards me. You're crazy. We look at you with fear. Your eyes look scary. And I'm going to mention this for the last time and just keep moving with this. It hurt all those years when people I confided with said, Alex, it's in your head. People don't look at you different. You look like a regular white guy. And I told them, I'm not accusing you of racism. I'm saying that I believe that your way of looking at this is ignorant. You're judging your own moral compass and perception, others by your own. Why do that? So when I talk about white judgment, I explain that. When I talk about white denial, I just kind of like went over this really quick in the last video. I'm going to explain it. When you're saying that's not the way that some people view reality, you're in a state of denial. Okay, when women are like, wait a minute, some of you men, they're like, understand the men's rights thing and the relationship thing, and you have a way sometimes of judging all women, and I don't think that's right. And women have a way of judging your message, saying you're judging us all. And I'll say to the women, we're not judging you all. There are aspects of women and men that are douchebags. We should talk about that. Are there Middle Eastern people that are douchebags that do wrong to others? Absolutely. Have I called them out in other videos? Well, if you're a regular viewer, you know the answer to that question. Seems that a lot of you that are first-time viewers, you're making judgments on things you know nothing about. Because the comment section is right there. Just start typing away. Libtard, Soros, Arab, on and on. Inaccuracy after inaccuracy after inaccuracy. Not all Middle Eastern people are Arabs. Not all European people are French. Not all Europeans are Italians. There are some that hate you or hate Europeans that will do that. You're showing me hatred when you put all people into the Arab box. It doesn't mean that I hate Arabs. It means you're not being accurate. Just like when people thought that I was Hispanic in other cases, or when the Hispanics thought I was white, fully white. And then an Afghan had the guts, because like I said, the Afghans, the Ansaris do not support me. I stand alone. Had the guts to say, don't ever call yourself half white. Afghans are where we come from. We are white too. And that is true. I've heard this over and over and over. But when I look at my skin, I see brown. I see brown. She can say that all she wants. And you see brown in the supermarket when you see me. Or someone like you sees me, but you're not listening to me. And you don't know my views on politics, but you see my face. You see my face after 3 days without shaving. And you go, if you're one of them, he's one of them. And you look at me with caution. And you look at me like I'm some sort of an animal to study. The last thing in your mind was, gee, I wonder whether he's an author. I wonder whether he's one of the few, like less than 1% of the population that's been involved in alternative media. And maybe interviewing some of these people that some of you are already familiar with. Have I mentioned Tom Horn yet? Have I mentioned the late Robert Bowman, the 9/11 truther yet? Have I mentioned Jack Blood yet? All these people I've met and known. Have I talked about Mark Passio yet? Have I talked about, I mentioned Alex Jones. I'm not a fan of him, but I went down and met him because he inspired me to get involved in the alternative media. See, you don't have other people or Muslims or Middle Eastern people with my story. I have a unique story. But what's the most unique about it? My soul, I believe, with its own history, picked a body or genetics, which was a blend of the East and the West. And from a very early age, I began to think about things like solar flares or world wars in the future. Specifically, technologies, scanning our consciousness and putting it up on a screen. And now we're like living in that world that I would daydream about on that 40-acre farm. Because I didn't grow up in Portland, but on that 40-acre farm in Red State America, if you will. Aurora, Oregon, under the household of Bill Nagel, the grandfather that worked hard after World War II to have a home for his children and his grandchildren. My grandfather knew after 9/11, he said, you better tell him you're Italian. You better tell him you're Italian. My grandfather knew the kind of world that would erupt after 9/11. The Bush supporting Bill Nagel, M.W. Nagel. Someone actually commented, well, you do know that Nagel's Jewish, right? He's talking Nagle. And so the very fact that someone would try to attack me then by actually explaining to you the actual last names on the mother's side. So those of you really obsessed with race can do your own genealogy. No, I'm not going to attack Jews. but I don't come from a Jewish line on the mother's side. Nice try. That is very sick of you. To the person that did that. To the person that did that. So, let me try to summarize this, okay? I shared with you about what it's like to be judged, as well as to be judged several years ago for saying that I was being judged, and dealing with that white denial saying you're not being judged, that's in your head. Those people think you're beautiful. For those of you that are afraid of my appearance, in that part 1 video, you know you're not looking at something you see as beautiful. You know the combination of the shaved face and the Semitic eyes and the shaved head at that moment, even though I'm just doing this because I'm realigning my hair because I don't want that curly look and I don't have the money. I'm snowed in. I'm snowed in all winter long, folks. I have solar panels, in case you didn't know, golf cart batteries. I have a generator. I have an AC, APC. I have a lot of off-grid content for you to check out. And you'll also find out that I stood up for white off-gridders being kicked off their land if you were to check out what I did last year in Costilla County, which is what I'm glad that I remembered to share. It was very hard to see friends of mine get kicked off their land because they were white and poor by the Hispanic government in Costilla. Seeing that, though, in this period in which the false Islamic invasion memes were building and building and building and building and building, I saw people that should have been my allies, and I wondered if my outspoken stance and sharing also about my mixed racial heritage, if that was the thing that alienated me from those very whites that I was trying to help. Basically, to make a long story short, and I want you to look up the article, The Demonization of the Costilla County Homesteaders, and you can learn more about what I was involved in. I want to thank Kyle Reardon for writing about this, so he can write for others what I pretty much put into a whole lot of videos, and bring someone up to speed in, say, 5 minutes. And if you want to know more, you can start watching the links at my channel. Type in Costilla County. I stood up for them. Did I feel in my heart that after they kicked people off their property, that people didn't really reach their hand out to me because I was half Afghan, even though I'm born in the U.S.? The answer is yes. There was actually a guy that gave me a ride, who's a Facebook friend in this area, and he said, "So what nationality are you?" And then it's like facepalm. The guy's a great guy, but it's like, if we want to be literal, I was born in America. That's my nationality. Why would my nationality be different if I look different? But yet people actually do talk like this. So how long you been in the United States? It's like, do you tell a black person that? Because their ancestors are from Africa? These are all like very like relative points that I think you should consider. There's ways that you can treat someone as a subhuman without overtly treating them as a subhuman and calling them that. Ways you can subtly treat them as a subhuman or a non-tribal member. So I talked about Portlandia, and it's also called Whitelandia. And people were really offended by that were not in my shoes, that were saying, well, we're being exterminated by all the, but like I was in Portland. Portland is like 95% white. And the only people that are of color that are accepted in most of those white cliques are people that think like them. So as I explained to you already, and I won't do it again, when you're someone that's considered to be a 9/11 conspiracy theorist or a conspiracy theorist, that's not considered friendly content to the left. They consider people like that right-wing extremists. I have been considered a right-wing fuck to the left. And I explained this to you, and I told you what my website is, and you're on my YouTube channel with 10 years of content, meaning you can go back to mic check me. And one of the ways people insult me is they go, "What happened to you? You used to seem really intelligent and on it and handsome, wearing a suit." Yeah, I was doing a show in Portland Cable Access. I can also look the same way if I was to be back there again. Nice lights and a nice studio helps someone look a little bit better than the rough person they may actually look like. So why get a guy down or kick a guy for going off grid and not trying to look all pretty and metrosexual? And I never really was a metrosexual. I got a fucking hairy chest. And believe you me, I've been made fun of by white people for that as well. Wow, you have really a hairy... I think maybe women of the 70s and 80s would have been more into a man like me. They certainly were more into a man like my father. My father did not come to this country in the 60s and 70s and walk into a world of hate. In fact, if I can find the strength to write my book or life story, which is very difficult, I wish I had someone special in my life in a way to help me get through some of the difficult moments. But let me just say this. I know for a fact that manly men in general, whether they were bodybuilders or dudes with hairy chests or dudes that can fight or the things that I'm interested in, they were more by the women of the previous generation accepted. And I would even say some intellectual or spiritually inclined men. Now, there's a lot of really dumbed down people. And there's an anarchy of information on the internet. So there isn't really a whole lot of appreciation for what it is that I do. That's why there's only a few of you. That's why there's only a few of you listening. But it's 3 o'clock in the morning. See, it gets dark by 4 o'clock at night. Or 5 o'clock, really. And I'm up at 7,700 feet elevation. So, and I am in Trump County, by the way. I should probably talk to you why I feel safer in Trump County than left liberal. But I want to say that I'm up early because I got already my 8 hours sleep. And going off grid has been very healthy to me and healthy on my body. And so that's why I get up early and I did a longer podcast, because I understand that a lot of you were not able to get beyond my physical appearance and my scary looking eyes and my obvious Middle Eastern appearance, despite years of those on in my past saying, Alex, that's all in your head, and then dealing with their white denial and their own white judgment towards me as some sort of a conspiracy theorist that it was all in my head. You've actually shown me it's not all in my head through the comments that you left and your quickness to demonize me and to try to attack me. And you even claim, some of you, that you were Gnostic as well. Nice try. I should also say at this point, someone actually commented the demiurge was good, not evil. But the demiurge of this world really isn't all that bad. I've also seen other women tell me that they talk to archons as well. And yet you're calling me the crazy one because I'm documenting the crazy in your society. And that is crazy. But let's go back to Costilla County. I helped the white off-gridders get their word out, and I saw white bloggers in the alternative media talk about it, but they didn't get the legal help for their fellow off-grid, white off-grid counterparts. So while they were all up in burns, and then others were dealing with the white genocide, well, if you're going to be from a position of we're being discriminated against, why did you not help me? It's a direct question that's being posed. So if you actually are going to listen to the whole thing, address the question that I'm asking, because I've asked this question in 10 other podcasts. And the people that are hating on me and then going, white genocide, you're not addressing what I'm saying. So I addressed people that own their property outright or bought their property for several grand or were making payments. They were being visited by code enforcement officers that were targeting the white residents that they saw as trash or that they viewed as trash. And a lot of this was racially and class motivated. And they said, if you didn't go out and get a septic, we're talking about $10,000 here, folks. Which one of our ancestors had a $10,000 septic? Was it you or was it you? Because the fact of the matter is, you go back 100, 200, 300 years ago, they weren't required by local regulations to have the bling bling just to be able to stay on their own land. That's how they fuck people in today's day and age. And it's a contributing factor to homelessness. So here I am in a predominantly most all white off-grid community. And these people, in the end, I don't think saw me as one of them. And a lot of them got co-opted by the sovereign movement and some people that I believe may have been federal agents. And I think there was a little bit of resentment that I was exposing that as well. So for whatever reason, folks, I've been so different that there isn't a community for me anywhere. Not Muslim, not Middle Eastern, not Gnostic, not white, not black, not Hispanic. I already figured that one out. So what is it? And how do I afford it? And by what means? And how did I do it? And as I conclude here in this last few minutes of the hour, I'll tell you. You know, from saving my money that I work every month on my associate's website, you know, my YouTube stuff is definitely like below the $600 a month threshold. Very few donations are coming in, but because I lived, even though that cost money for gas, in an RV for several years, I got away from this whole, oh, I'm homeless or I'm living in my vehicle thing. I need to get off grid in the right county to where I'm not going to be forced back into homelessness because I don't have a septic. And I realized that Costilla County wasn't for me, and those people that I stood up for weren't part of my community. That in the end, I really was truly different from them. And in the end, even though, and you should know this, the only people that have really supported my work have been a few minorities, but mostly whites. I think that now more people of color are starting to find my channel, whereas before maybe they were judgmental to me because I didn't like Obama and they were of a lower level intelligence. And I don't want anyone to take that to be offended, nor should you be offended if I say you're a low level of intelligence, if I say that, you know, you're being judgmental towards me for not getting on the Trump train. You should want to know the reason and logic behind one's beliefs. By just simply calling one crazy, you yourself act in a crazy manner. So when people said I couldn't do it, or they thought it was weird, and they didn't understand what I was saying when I said, I don't feel right in this world, I feel judged. And people said, you're crazy, Alex, this is in your head. No, it's not in my head. I need to go off grid and be alone because I'm tired of being stared at by your people. I'm tired of being stared at by your people. I wasn't loved by my mother. I wasn't loved by my father's family. And I certainly wasn't loved by the women of today's day and age. So no one's trying to heal my heartbreak right now. And it hurts. And I just want to get away from you if you're scared of me, especially if I've got nowhere to go and I'm parking my car in your neighborhood in Whitelandia, so-called open left Portland. Fuck it. I'll be safer in Trump County. Living on my own land for months on end, eating nothing but still cut oats and quinoa. That's the only food I got left. I put up an ad for a ride for $30 to town, $30 cash. Nobody will give me a ride. One person actually said one day, why did you even come here? As if I'm from a foreign country. Why did you even come here? The truth is to get away from people like you, man. But the good news is, even though you're here and you're saying, why did I come here to this county where the people obviously don't trust me, at least I'll be away from the major cities like Portland, Los Angeles, New York, when my own prophecy comes to fruition, my own predictions. America's karma getting returned to itself, and I'm warning Americans about this. I've warned them for years about good strategic places to escape to. Those of you that love Trump but hate me can actually benefit from the advice that I've given in past videos on getting out of Dodge. And I've given you better information in some cases than Alex Jones and Joel Skousen, because I've gone out like an actual scout. And I've told you don't go to Costilla County. I've told you don't go to Portland, Oregon. I've talked about other places, and I've said sometimes if you have a little bit extra money and you work for it, even though that land ain't cheap, it's going to be worth it in the end. You'll thank me later. You'll thank me later. And I do this out of love. I kept praying. I kept seeking. And by spring of this year, in the year 2016, the paperwork began. And the payment process by summer began. And I'm on a payment plan for the next 4 years. And by an act of God, and I think sometimes God alone, as a result of the good deeds that I've done and love to help many white Americans, many black Americans, many humans navigate the challenges. I want to do a history explanation of what happened to Afghanistan, how it was destabilized. But sometimes I feel like there isn't enough of you that support that. I look at how YouTube will demonetize any video with the Middle East or Syria or ISIS or Afghanistan or FBI informant or false flag. And it's like, where is the incentive to even put out truthful information? Where are even the people of the Middle East supporting my work? So before you call me the racist, I've told you many times, in general, it's been those of Caucasian background that have either been my friends or my lovers. Well, for the most part, people of color have not been receptive to my message, except for a minority. And part of that is also the mathematics, that the reality is whites are not the minority. Whites are the majority in many areas, with the exception of certain urban areas and parts of the world. But with regards to the country in which I was born in, coming from a white family, not my father's Middle Eastern family, but my mother's white American family, which had its own white supremacy that my mother will deny, which is just again another microcosm of the macrocosm of the white denial in which our culture suffers from. I heard all those terms growing up from my uncles and grandparents. Beaner, Nick, nigger, spick, I heard it all. There's nobody that says stuff like that who has a favorable view of the people of the Middle East in reality. You can claim that. I don't believe that. And I haven't seen that. So in closing up these thoughts, I live off grid for my own safety. God has answered my prayers. I've asked God to protect me from harm from you if you ever attempt to hunt me, because you are angry with both the words coming from me as well as my racial background. And putting two and two together, it's like you've got a scope that you'd like to put right on my forehead. And I say to you, and I say to the devil of this world, then pull the trigger. If God says that it's time for me to go, it's time to go. But because of the actions of the last year, it's like I don't know that I'm going to see 40. I don't know that I won't also be in a camp in the future because of my last name and my middle name, which is not of this culture or this society. But what does it have to do with my religious status? So I would encourage you to check out my Gnostic podcasts and my conversations on the archons and my future videos on how the evil of this world is using the illusions of separation, the perceived differences between us, to actually entrap members of our world into this matrix. You can even call it a hell realm. Certainly there are worse realms than this. This really is a paradise compared to other places. And so my last thoughts is we're dealing with the battle of good and evil. And so when they convince a certain amount of you that a certain amount of people need to leave the planet because they're born evil or born a certain way, as far as I'm concerned, they want your soul. And they have your soul. Whether you yourself are going and removing people violently from the planet because of their genetic code, or you're supporting or voting for those that will go on to do those things that represent that agenda. So I will be back with more. I would firmly recommend that you subscribe to this channel, that you go back at least 4 or 5 years and listen to my commentary during the Obama administration, how I am pleading with Obama supporters. I will say in the end, Trump voters and Trump supporters have been far crueler to me in the comment section than any Obama supporter. In fact, I don't really remember massive attacks or any racism from the Obama support base. And so that is very obvious to me now. And these podcasts will continue. I will also recommend that you check out my websites, alexansary.tv. Okay, it's an overview of my life in the alternative media. We have thedailymatrix.com. We have worldwarzero.com. We have solarmaxnews.com. And we have offgridco.com. If you haven't seen my presentation on solar flares, there's a recent excerpt from that on my YouTube channel now. If you don't know about how I came to the aid single-handedly as a multicultural person, as you would refer to me, a white genocide in action, I came to the aid of white off-gridders being kicked off their land, and I pleaded with you and I pleaded with the nation for legal support, and all the people did is made a blog about it, and no legal support came, and I was the only person. This person who one day will have a book with a chapter called My Father is from Afghanistan and My Mother is White. This person, this guy you're listening to that you don't like because I don't get behind supporting Donald Trump, so you'll call me a Clinton supporter anyways. I have a history on YouTube of what I've been up to the last 10 years. The surveillance society on my life is open source, and it's called this channel. So I recommend you look into who you're listening to, and that you keep an open mind with regards to what the truth is. If you in your heart really want the truth. I'm Alex Ansary signing off, 3:13 in the morning. Just woke up an hour ago. Living healthy off the grid. Snowed in. Got only still cutouts and quinoa to eat. Stepping back from mainstream society. All religions. All tribes. A man without a tribe. And giving my opinion. Thank you for listening.